She was too sick to care for them, her poor children now alone. These words sound like the beginning of a sad tale, but for one small family, it was the reality that shaped every breath, every tear, every desperate prayer whispered into the darkness. The story begins in a modest neighborhood on the edge of a bustling city, where life moved quickly for everyone except the woman lying in bed inside a weathered little house. Her name was Anna. Once, she had been full of life, with laughter that could fill an entire room and strength that carried her through every hardship. But sickness is merciless. It creeps in slowly, unnoticed at first, until it takes root and refuses to let go. For Anna, it started with simple exhaustion. She thought it was nothing. She was a single mother of two, after all, and tiredness came with the territory. But then came the sharp coughs, the dizzy spells, the weight loss she couldn't explain. Still, she pushed forward. Her children, Mia and Jacob, needed her. Mia was only 10, bright-eyed with a love for drawing, while Jacob was 6, still small enough to crawl into his mother's bed at night when he had nightmares. They were her world, her reason for waking up every morning, no matter how much pain she felt. Anna plastered a smile on her face for them. She didn't want them to see her weakness, because in their eyes, she was invincible. But invincibility doesn't last forever. By the time neighbors noticed something was wrong, Anna could hardly keep food on the table. The cupboards grew emptier each week. She stretched every dollar, skipped her own meals so the children could eat, and silently battled waves of nausea and fevers that left her shaking. She told no one. Pride kept her silent, and fear kept her hidden. Fear that if anyone discovered just how sick she was, someone might take her children away. That was her greatest terror, not death, not pain, but losing Mia and Jacob. The children began noticing the changes. Mia would watch her mother struggle to climb the stairs, her face pale, her hands trembling. Jacob asked why Mama was always lying down. She would kiss his forehead and whisper, "Mom is just tired, sweetheart. Don't worry." But deep inside, Mia worried every second. She tried to take on more responsibility, helping cook, cleaning the dishes, even reading bedtime stories to Jacob when their mother was too weak. She was only a child herself, but necessity forces children to grow up fast. School became harder for both of them. Mia's teachers noticed her homework was unfinished, her once neat handwriting growing messy. Jacob sometimes came to class without lunch. They were too embarrassed to explain. When asked, Mia would simply lower her eyes and say, "Mama isn't feeling well." Most people took it as a common flu. No one realized how desperate things were becoming. One evening, the breaking point came. Anna tried to cook dinner, determined to at least give her children one warm meal. But halfway through, she collapsed on the kitchen floor, the sound of the pan clattering echoing through the house. Mia screamed. Jacob dropped his toy and ran to his mother's side, shaking her arm, begging her to wake up. Panic filled the air. Mia, her small hands trembling, grabbed the phone and dialed the emergency number. Her voice broke as she cried into the receiver, begging for help. Within minutes, neighbors gathered, their faces pale with shock as paramedics rushed into the tiny house. The children stood in the doorway, clutching each other's hands, as their mother was lifted onto a stretcher. "We'll be okay," Anna whispered, her voice weak, her eyes glassy. "Stay strong for me." Those words haunted Mia that night. Stay strong. But how? Their mother was taken to the hospital, and for the first time, the children spent the night in someone else's home. A kind neighbor offered them a couch to sleep on, but they couldn't close their eyes. Jacob cried quietly, asking over and over, "When is Mama coming back?" Mia held him close, whispering, "Soon, she'll come back soon." But she wasn't sure if it was true. At the hospital, doctors worked to stabilize Anna. The sickness had spread further than anyone realized. She needed treatment, a long, exhausting treatment. But her thoughts weren't on herself. She gripped the nurse's hand and begged, "Please, my children, don't let them be alone." Her voice cracked, tears running down her face. "They're all I have, please." Meanwhile, back at the house, reality settled in. Social workers visited, asking questions that made Mia's stomach twist. "Do you have other family? Is there someone who can take care of you?" The words foster care were mentioned, and fear shot through both children like lightning. The idea of being separated, of being sent to strangers, was unbearable. They had already lost so much they couldn't lose each other. And here, when all hope seemed lost, a neighbor stepped forward. Mrs. Thompson, an older woman who had lived on the street for decades, offered to take them in temporarily. She wasn't wealthy, but she had a big heart. "They can stay with me," she told the social worker firmly. "I won't let them be split apart." Her voice carried a kind of authority that came from years of experience, and for the first time in days, the children felt a small spark of safety. But safety didn't erase the pain. Every night, Mia and Jacob missed their mother. They drew pictures for her, wrote little notes filled with love and hope, and prayed before bed that she would come back soon. At the hospital, Anna clung to those drawings like lifelines. Each childish sketch gave her strength to fight through the exhaustion, the endless treatments, the heavy weight pressing on her chest. Weeks passed slowly. The children tried to adapt to life with Mrs. Thompson, who cooked them warm meals and tucked them into bed at night. She reminded them that their mother loved them, that she was fighting for them. But Mia still carried guilt. She wondered if she should have noticed earlier, if she should have done more. She was only 10, but the burden on her heart was far heavier. One afternoon, Mia overheard adults talking in hushed voices. Words like long recovery and no guarantees made her stomach drop. She didn't want Jacob to hear, so she kept it to herself. At night, when he slept peacefully beside her, she cried silently into her pillow, begging God not to take their mother away. Back at the hospital, Anna's condition slowly began to improve. Not fully, her sickness was still there, a constant battle, but enough to allow her to sit up, to smile again, to whisper words of encouragement to her children when they visited. Those reunions were filled with tears and laughter. Jacob would climb onto the bed, hugging her tightly, refusing to let go. Mia would sit quietly, holding her mother's hand, memorizing every detail of her face, afraid to lose even a second with her. The journey wasn't over. There were more hospital visits, more nights filled with uncertainty. But love has a strange power. It fuels strength even when the body wants to give up. Anna fought for her children with everything she had, and slowly, step by step, she began to recover enough to return home. The day she walked back into that small house, the children clung to her as if they would never let go again. Tears ran down all their faces, but they were tears of relief, of gratitude. They had been through the storm together, and though the scars remained, they were still a family. But this story isn't just about Anna, Mia, and Jacob. It's a reflection of countless families around the world. Families quietly struggling behind closed doors, unseen by neighbors, unnoticed by society. Parents battling sickness while trying to shield their children from the harsh truth. Children carrying burdens far too heavy for their young shoulders. And maybe that's why you're hearing this story today. Because it's not just a sad tally, it's a reminder. A reminder that compassion matters. That the smallest act of kindness, like a neighbor stepping forward, can change the entire course of a child's life. A reminder that behind every smile, there may be a hidden struggle. So, the next time you see a weary parent, or a child who looks lost, remember Anna and her children. Remember that your kindness could be the difference between despair and hope. Love kept this family together, and in the end, love is the strongest force of all.